welcome to It Ain't Over, a multi-monthly podcast exploring the ever-changing world that is technology. Brought to you by Rich Web, a full-service IT company located in Ashland, Virginia, specializing in cloud-managed services. Helping business owners be more profitable by letting our experienced team manage their IT network so they can manage their business. Rich Web, driving enterprise IT. And now, it ain't over.
Welcome out to Show 6. Continued conversation with Joe Dollquist, the VP Product Manager for ThreatSTOP. Should it ever be advised that like a company unblock their own firewalls? Or would you advise that they really should be careful, do the research, or either use a third party or a vendor like us that does manage services that has a product like ThreatSTOP in place to manage that for them?
You know, I think there's an element of all the above there.
Okay.
Sometimes it calls for quick reactions, right? Sometimes the help desk phone rings, and on the other end of it is an important person in the company who's not able to get access to a certain website, and they need to. In those instances, we've given our own customers the ability to whitelist things that affect their own firewalls, their own DNS servers, their own routers, and other appliances. And so if they need to unblock something right away, they have the tools to do so. We always urge caution, though. Don't go willy-nilly whitelisting things that could potentially open up serious security threats to your network. We have tools that allow customers to do research on a domain or an IP, any IP or domain. And by just putting those into a search bar in our solution, we give them the whole rap sheet on that particular domain or IP and tell them everything we've ever known about it, including previous times that it might have been in our database as a malicious IP or a domain. And we would encourage that at least some cursory research be done before somebody would whitelist our solution. And if they don't have that in-house expertise, and many companies these days with the IT shortage that we've got just don't.
Exactly.
I would say rely on partners like Rich Web or rely on vendors such as ThreatSTOP to help clear the air about potentially whitelisting something before you go and do it.
Great. And does ThreatSTOP do, like, if something's blacklisted and put in as vulnerable, is there a time frame that typically stays in? Is it forever, or is it based off of the software and the technology that you all have developed? Do you have a way to know when it's not vulnerable anymore and when it's okay to release it?
We absolutely do. You know, to the first question, do we have like a set number of days or hours
time frame
before
or something
is removed? Yeah, we really don't. I'd say on average, and it's because we treat everything individually. That's what we have a great security team that does that. We have a lot of automation tools, and we also have great relationships with the sources of the threat intelligence that comprise our solution so that we can rapidly understand what type of threat is at this domain, what type of command and control, what type of attack campaign is behind this IP address in this server. But we probably on average have an IP or a domain in our system for somewhere between 3 and 7 days. And that's kind of an indication of how fast this threat landscape moves. It used to be, you know, in the good old days that once an IP address was bad, it was, you know, generally always bad. Once a domain was bad, it was generally always bad. But if you were to never remove IPs and domains from your firewall rules these days, over time you'd end up blocking almost the entirety of the internet because almost everything gets compromised at some point or another. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so you really need a solution that can move as fast as the threat landscape itself moves, right? There's domains getting automatically generated by algorithms used for attacks for a period of hours and then torn down, and a new domain pops up somewhere else that continues on that attacker's campaign. Your firewall rules need to move just as quickly, if not faster. And without some automation and without those skills and budgets in-house to do it, ThreatSTOP's one of the only ways to keep up and stay ahead of attackers.
Have you ever found that there's maybe a particular site or IP address that continually gets hacked or hit as vulnerable, and it may come up and it clears up and then it gets hit again? What does ThreatSTOP do for multiple times or multiple occasions when that happens to the same site?
Yeah, not only do we get to see the same maybe IP address or the same web domain come up over and over again as being malicious and non-malicious and around we go, but we frequently see the same IPs and domains being identified as malicious from the various of the 850 threat feed providers that we work with. So if Alien Vault is saying something is bad, and CrowdStrike is saying that same thing is bad, and D-Shield and others also agree that this is a bad IP address, it certainly increases our confidence level, and in turn, our customers' confidence level that that is truly a bad IP address, and no connections or communication with it should be allowed
ever
while it's in our engine.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's I guess. Oh, go ahead. Yep.
And I was just going to say that, we frequently actually reach out and do have dialogue with the humans, the people behind
that was my next
some
question.
of those web assets. Yeah.
Yeah.
We typically find that they're not bad guys or bad girls. They are trying to do business. They may have a small business. They may be completely unaware that their website or their server has been compromised. And in many cases, they're very grateful to hear from folks at ThreatSTOP that there's a problem. And we help them get that cleaned up. And that's not something that we charge for. That's not our business model. We kind of do it to help keep the internet clean and safe for our customers and our partners.
Which I think is one of the value adds. Not only are you guys fighting the battle at the edge, at the doorway, but you're also being proactive with those vulnerable IPs and sites to reach out to them and say, hey, did you know that your site or your IP is vulnerable and is showing up as a not trusted site? And that's I don't know of many other cybersecurity companies that would do that extra step. That's I think that's one of the reasons why we like it.
We definitely do try and go the extra step. And I think a lot of that comes from having been there, in the shoes of our customers and having wrestled with the same kind of challenges that they have. It's not unheard of that ThreatSTOP has reached out to one of our own customers where our product generates reporting data about what's been blocked, not what was detected, right? We're not a reactive company, but what was prevented. And oftentimes it's because there is an infected laptop or an infected workstation inside of the customer's network that is trying to beacon out and communicate with the bad guy and say, I'm in, what do you want me to do next? Do you want me to encrypt files? Do you want me to send you data? And with ThreatSTOP, we block those connection attempts back to, the bad guy mothership, which takes a lot of the risk away. But at some point, that machine needs to be cleaned up. It needs to, have a vulnerability scan run on it. And if it is infected with some kind of malware, it probably got infected when it was outside of the customer network and not protected by ThreatSTOP. But, we've been known to reach out to our customers and say, hey, it looks like you have some machines internally that are infected with ransomware. And we wanted to make you aware of that just in case you've been busy and haven't had a chance to look at the reporting, or if you didn't see that in the data, that's something that we've also reached out and helped with. And those things make huge differences, especially for smaller customers and with smaller teams.
Absolutely. If you had one true fire rule for businesses setting up firewalls and putting this all into place, what would you tell them the purpose would be?
At its core, a firewall needs really two things, right? A concept of zones and interfaces and a list of things that shouldn't be allowed to talk to each other. all the bells and whistles and add-ons and modules and extra blades and things of that nature that have found their way into firewalls are generally a lot of noise, and they're often, degrading to the performance of the firewall itself, where, speed and connectivity is necessary and should be valued. So, I think some of the true fire wisdom are, basics. The magic with firewalls happen in configuration. Step one, secure the firewall. For goodness sake, update the firmware and the operating system right when you get it out of the box, before you put it into any kind of production environment. Blow away all of the default user accounts, right? I can't tell you how many companies have been pwned because they had default admin users with, admin as the login credentials.
Right.
And that thing's sitting out there on the internet just begging to be compromised. So, set appropriate admin privileges, use strong passwords, super bonus round points if you make it such that a virtual machine that doesn't talk to the internet is the only thing you can manage that firewall through, and that there's no public-facing, control protocols like Telnet and HTTP and stuff like that a bad guy can use to actually get inside of your firewall and start changing rules that they want to change, so it makes it easier for them to get in. Do some segmentation, define some zones, say these things should never talk to the internet, and this subnet of users doesn't need to talk to those databases or those servers. That is the heart and soul of a good firewall config are the zones and the access control lists, and then slim it down and get it to go fast. Mm-hmm. Turn off stuff that you don't need. Disable features and modules that are going to chew up memory and CPU and make that thing a sprinter that's capable of enforcing a lot of traffic through a well-thought-out set of firewall rules, and you're going to end up with some pretty good results. And I guess, above and beyond it all, make sure that you've got a competent person doing it, right? I'm not a firewall admin. I know just enough to be dangerous and really, really screw things up and get people in trouble, including myself. So I would never configure a firewall here at ThreatSTOP. I would leave that to the experts, and I would encourage customers to do the same. The devil's in the details. There's a lot of nuance and subtlety there, and you can configure everything really well and find out that there was a problem, and that's that. The game could be over. So have someone competent set that up and configure it and test it and make backups.
Backups. We preach that
from pulling your hair
all the time. Yeah, exactly. Well, Joe, thanks so much for your time. And, I can't tell you, your tagline with weaponize your threat intelligence is definitely on target, because you guys put the stop in ThreatSTOP. You make sure that those vulnerabilities do not hit the companies and get inside those networks. So we love working with you guys. We love the product. It is our go-to for everything internal and external, and I just can't say enough good things about you.
Well, we appreciate it, Paul. Thanks for having me on. This has been a great discussion. I hope that your listeners find something beneficial in it. And at ThreatSTOP, we always say the only good threat is a blocked one. So keep blocking them at the edge. Keep them away from your jewels.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joe.